All right, everybody, and welcome back to the podcast. Week 4 is done, and I actually recorded an episode yesterday, and I just wasn't happy with the way it turned out. I like to record podcasts on Tuesday because I'd like to see what happens with the Monday night game, just in case anything interesting happens. I wouldn't say last night was anything exciting. Anybody that's watched the Giants play for the last few seasons kind of expected that it would be a complete crap show, and it was. So I was kind of flying off the cuff, which isn't unusual, but it was just a day earlier because I was so, I don't want to say amped and excited to talk about the Bills' win over the Dolphins, but I thought that there was just so much to that story and some other things, and I wanted to get into it. So let's go ahead and start rocking it out now. Week 4 was a burner. A lot of storylines going into it. The number one was obviously Buffalo and Miami. And as a Bills fan, I was a little pessimistic, but that's from being a Bills fan. And also because this seemed like a different Miami team. But at the same time, and I pointed this out last podcast, Buffalo, which is known for having a stiff defense, hadn't faced a really good offense yet. And Miami's offense hadn't faced a really good defense, and it was going to be who would break first. And the way the game started is it seemed like it was going to be a shootout. And then what ended up happening is Buffalo made adjustments on defense, started pressing at the line a little bit more and taking the timing away from Tua and taking away a lot of his throwing lanes. And it was a slow kind of get away from them. And then all of a sudden, everything just went downhill for Miami, and Buffalo took complete control of the game. And to be honest, they could have put up 56, 62, 63. It maybe not 70, because I don't think they would have scored that many points in the fourth quarter, but they could have embarrassed them the way that Miami embarrassed Denver. And let's be honest, once it got to 35 points against Denver, Denver's defense just didn't care. They were just like, I'm not going to go out there and get hurt for a game that we're not going to win. So there was a little bit of that mystique with it as well, that in reality, the Broncos just stopped playing because they're not going to try after so long. So for somebody who's very critical of Buffalo, I want to say congratulations and well done. That was probably the perfect game, minus running these kicks out from 4 yards in the end zone and getting taken down to your 19. That's the only thing. Everything else was great. The offense was calling a lot of really smart plays, a lot of play action. Buffalo seemed to have found something with this three-headed monster of a running back situation, and that's very beneficial because it's 3 guys that are good, not one great person, but 3 guys that are really good. And sometimes when you have the option to throw somebody different in, styles make matchups, and sometimes you could have a team that cooks against, and sometimes you'll have a team that either Harris or Murray do well against, and it's just one of those things of finding the right piece and letting it work. So the play action was phenomenal. The plays were intelligent, quite a few RPOs, and then when it was time, mismatches like Diggs against Kohu, it was time to take advantage. It looks like that what happened in week 1 with the Jets is the best thing that could have happened to Buffalo, because they've played like absolute focused, complete psychos since then. I'm in my garage and I just got done working out, so I'm sweating a little bit over here. And the reason I'm actually trying the mic and the headphones today is I'm running it through something different to see if it helps the audio with the podcast. If not, I'll just go back to doing it raw dog. As for Miami, this is this is exactly what they needed. They needed a wake-up call like this. They need to realize that you're beating up cans in the league, and you gotta get with it if you want to be there at the end. Unfortunately, Dallas Cowboys fans make a big deal when they beat a 1-win team, which is all they've done all season. Dallas looks great if you have a bad quarterback and you're an under 500 team, and they need a wake-up call as well. Aside from the Cardinals kicking their ass, I can't wait to see San Francisco just crush their dreams, because Dallas fans are just insufferable. And Miami fans, with a team to be cocky about that has an explosive offense, get a little bit that way as well. And it was nice to see them kind of come down a little bit from that and realize that there's teams that can play in this league. And once again, it was another week of parity, which is great. Who saw Tennessee destroying Cincinnati by 3 scores? I didn't see that coming. Even though I know Cincinnati's not 100%. And I was very critical, and I said a lot of bad things about Tennessee last week, and they deserved it. And they deserve credit this week. They looked like the team that I've been hoping to see because, like I always say, my son is a Titans fan. So there were some other games in there that were surprise games. There were some that were in there that not. I don't think anybody was surprised. San Francisco won. Philly went to overtime against Washington. The same Washington team that lost by a ton to Buffalo that also put up a lot of points the week before. It's a very up and down league this year. It's a lot of going on, and it's very exciting because you almost never know what you get next week. So, seeing as how it's a Bills podcast, I'm going to congratulate Buffalo first. That was an incredible performance. I have been waiting for this team to play like they've played the last 3 weeks since Allen had that horrible playoff game against the Texans. And the reason that I started this podcast and I go on rants sometimes is because it seemed like they were never fixing the same mistakes. And it really seemed like that in week 1 against the Jets. And maybe that was the best thing that could have happened to this team. Are they going to ride this wave and stay this sharp for the rest of the season? Probably not. They're going to have some downers. They're going to have some games that don't look as sharp. The idiots on television who make a big deal week in and week out about every little thing are going to say like, oh, see, they're washed up now. They missed their window. Then the next week they're going to be calling them locks for the Super Bowl. I'm going to get to the sports media later. But I just did want to give Buffalo their due. I've been critical of them for a long time. I've been disappointed as a Bills fan for a long time. But fuck, man, that was a great performance. Everything was clicking. Offense, defense. I'm upset that we lost Tre'Davious White. That's a huge blow to the team. The only silver lining that comes with that, and look, I don't like to see any players injured. I don't like to see these guys not making money. I think it's terrible what happened to Trayvon Diggs, as much as I can't stand Dallas or their fucking fans, Skip Bayless in particular. But it sucks that he went down. I wasn't happy about that. I'm not happy about Tre'Davious White. If there was a silver lining to it, it's that it was in week 4. And in the next coming weeks, you're going to see a lot of teams that have good players, but realize that they need to start getting rid of those assets to start tanking the season and try to get better draft picks. So you might have a good corner that can come available in the market for pennies on the dollar, or an easy trade because the team is trying to get rid of them. And it could be somebody that's been around for a minute, knows what they're doing, and is trying to win a Super Bowl. A guy like, for instance, Marlon Humphrey, or somebody that can still play. And I wouldn't be surprised if Buffalo makes a trade, or they just have enough good guys in their practice squad, because they do seem to have depth without the name. And what I mean by that is guys like Deontay Hardy's coming in, or not many people knew of Shakir before he got to Buffalo. And even though these aren't great players, guys that you're going to see in the Hall of Fame or see in a lot of Pro Bowls, they're guys that are going to go out and understand the system and be competent players. And it's also a good thing that talent-wise Buffalo is stacked. Like, their defensive line looks incredible, and they're not even playing with Von Miller. Like, that must be terrifying to the offensive linemen that have to play them, because you're never going to break. You know, Gregory Russo's out there for 2 downs, or Epenesa's out there for a couple downs, and you're like, oh, finally his backup's coming in. Who's his backup? Von Miller. Wonderful. So we'll see what Buffalo does. I personally think they're going to try to make a trade and grab somebody from a different team. But you never know. Maybe they're already loaded, or maybe their salary cap situation doesn't allow them to, which would be unfortunate. Regardless, I hope Trey White has a speedy recovery. I said it a little bit earlier. Congratulations to the Titans as well. I never liked the Titans. All I thought of them was a forward lateral that got them the Music City Miracle, of course against Buffalo, because Buffalo has been letting me down even longer than that. But because my son is such a Titans fan, I root for them, and they looked great as well. Vrabel did a good job. It looked like a well-coached team. Congratulations to them. It looks like there's a lot of unprepared teams out there. The Giants are one of them. The Broncos are one. I think Chicago purposely let the Broncos win that game so they can try to secure the first pick. And most likely they'll have number 1 and number 2 because they also have Carolina's pick. So it's going to be interesting to see how that happens. And it will be a colossal failure if they have the number 1 and number 2 pick and they don't turn that team around. So I'm going to shift gears a little bit to something that's kind of been bothering me with the sports media. And anybody that's listening, I'd love to get your opinion. I don't trust the regular media. I think the regular media is controlled by the same people that control the politicians, control the banks, the people that run this country and try to keep us divided, mostly along racial or like financial lines, like class lines, if you're upper class or middle class or you're poor. The sports media is no different. The idiots on ESPN, the idiots on NBC, the idiots on Fox Sports, they're paid. It used to be that they were paid to report on a story that was organic, a story that naturally came about, and report about that story. And instead what the sports media is paid to do is they're paid to create a false storyline in the hopes of dividing people. And right now, the way they're doing that is with Deion Sanders. I said in a previous podcast that there is a huge, huge void in good coaching at a young age. I live in South Florida. This is the fucking hotbed for professional football players. So many good players come out of here. And when I go and look at some of the way that these tackle football teams for 10-year-olds and 11-year-olds are being coached, there's no coaching. It's literally just telling kids to run into each other. They're not teaching them how to tackle. They're not teaching them how to block. They're not teaching fundamental techniques at the line of scrimmage, how to run routes correctly. And as you progress, they're already behind the curve. And so I knew that Deion Sanders was going to be a great coach at Colorado and at Jackson State. But he struggled when he was at San Diego State because he was coaching guys like they had his skill set, and nobody has his skill set. He had to learn how to coach good athletes at their level of skill and make them better players, which he's done. Now, the idiots in the sports media are trying to create this story that anybody that roots against Deion doesn't like him because he's black. And the NCAA doesn't like what he's doing because he's shaking things up as a black head coach who wears sunglasses at the media day or the post-game interview. That is complete horseshit. If there's one thing about the NCAA, it's they love money and they don't give a fuck where that money comes from. If you think that they have a problem with Deion Sanders, with all the fucking money that he's bringing in to that sport because of all the eyes that are on his teams, then I don't know what to tell you. It's not hard to see that they only see green. They only care about money. They don't fucking care who brings them the money. It's no different with him bringing eyes to Colorado, which is going to bring more money to that school and a better football program. It's no different than what Johnny Manziel did at Texas A&M. He went in and revolutionized the way that people looked at Texas A&M football and brought them a lot of money. And when Deion's done, which he's going to be out of college coaching in 2 years because he's going to go to the NFL and try to coach whatever team one or both of his kids are on, at some point there will be somebody else that brings a lot of eyes to a particular university that isn't known for being huge in football. Like, you could have a guy, think about what Michael Vick did to Virginia Tech. You could have somebody go to Boston College. Like Boston, I'm from Boston. Boston College doesn't have a huge following. People in Boston care more about college hockey than college football. But if you had a generational player or a generational coach show up there and bringing eyes to it, trust me, if Tom Brady went and became the head coach of Boston College, everybody would fucking watch that shit. The NCAA does not care what color you are. They only care about how much money you bring them. And the people who root against Deion Sanders are not rooting against them because he's black or he does things a certain way. They're just rooting against him because they're rooting against that team. If I criticize Deion because his team loses, then it's not because I don't like him because he's black. I'm criticizing the team for losing. I don't think they're national championship level. People that thought that they were are fucking idiots. And they're just saying that for clicks. It's the same thing that they try with the NFL when they say the owners of the NFL are a bunch of racist white people. So the same people that choose to pay a bunch of black people hundreds of millions of dollars to play a children's game are racist. The guys that are creating generational wealth for a bunch of black people, when they choose who they pay, yeah, they could draft all white people, but they choose to draft players because they want players that are going to win games and bring revenue to the team and make them money. They don't give a fuck. They don't give a fuck what color you are. They don't give a fuck what crimes you've committed, because you have people like Pac-Man Jones and Akib Talib and Richie Incognito. They'll give them multiple chances because they might give them a chance to win a ring and bring money to the team and money to the NFL. Same thing with the NCAA. So for all the fucking pieces of shit like Ryan Clark and Skip Bayless and Michael Irvin and all those fucking people, the reason I do this podcast is to give a perspective in case too many people listen to those idiots. Don't listen to them. Skip Bayless is a fucking moron who became a sports journalist because when he was in high school, the cool kids played sports and he wasn't any good at it. So he just reported on it so he could hang out with them. He's a piece of shit who knows nothing about sports and has, aside from picking Tom Brady every year, which is no different than picking Jordan in the 90s to win the championship every year, Skip Bayless has made exactly one good prediction, and it was on an NBA Finals maybe 12 years ago. Actually, it was the Eastern Conference Finals. Besides that, the guy is never right, and he's a walking embodiment of what's wrong with this world because he's a walking embodiment of Twitter. He says a bunch of shit to get clicks, and then when he's wrong, he'll never admit that he's wrong. He just makes an excuse because it's always somebody else's fault. He's an absolute piece of shit that should never have a TV show. And it's even worse now that Shannon Sharp's gone because he has a guy that was a lifetime cowboy and a part-time cowboy. And first off, Michael Irvin shouldn't be on TV because I can't understand half the shit that he says. He probably has a deviated septum from all the cocaine, but he just has this marble mouth way of talking. And once again, is the league racist or is it not? Because if the league was racist, they wouldn't allow Michael Irvin to end up on TV to be an analyst. But he's getting paid lots of money to do it. So it's an argument that needs to die. The storyline behind Deion Sanders needs to stop. He's a really good coach. I don't think he's going to win a national championship, but he's a really good coach. He knows how to show kids how to get better at their positions or bring people in that can get better at their positions. Now, some of the other fucking idiots he bring in, honestly, I think does give a bad image. I don't think DaBaby and Snoop Dogg need to be the guys that come motivate your football team like they're a bunch of children. Like, those guys have nothing intelligent to tell them. So I don't know why they're there. And it kind of makes me wonder, where some of the priorities are at. But besides that, I mean, Pete Carroll did the same shit when he had USC. So it's just the way some guys think. It's just the way some guys think they can relate to their players. I think it's an embarrassment personally on that level. But as far as him being a good coach, fuck that shit. He's a good coach. I root against Colorado because I was rooting for him too until I heard all the noise about Skip and Michael Irvin trying to create this bullshit narrative. And now I hope that Deion loses every game and looks bad, just as a fuck you to those guys. But I don't think he will. I think he's an incredible coach. His kids are talented. They should be talented. They come from him. And he's going to be in the NFL coaching soon, and they're going to have the same narrative. And then when he gets fired, the owner's going to be called racist. The owner could be black, and he's going to fire Deion Sanders, and they're going to be like, well, he's a racist. Get the fuck out of here with that shit. The narrative needs to stop, and people need to think for themselves and realize that this is bullshit. It's just the sports media trying to divide us. And to be honest, we should boycott the sports media and just do independent shit or trust people who have independent stuff that aren't sitting here trying to push a narrative. With that being said, that's kind of all I have for this week. We've got an interesting UFC card coming up. It's Grant Dawson. He's down at American Top Team. I was with American Top Team for a long time. That place has a soft spot in my heart for them. I always root for those guys. I hate when it's ATT fighters against each other, like Sarukian and Gamrot, or Sarukian and I can't remember the last guy he fought, but he was an ATT guy as well. So I think Grant Dawson's going to beat Bobby Green. I think Dawson looks really good. It's going to be interesting when he gets to the top 5 because he's going to have a few mismatches, but I think he's going to have a pretty smooth weekend. There's a couple of other fights that seemed interesting. I can't remember what they are because it's not like a dynamite card, but we'll see how it goes. Buffalo, I'm hoping they can continue it. They've got to go to England and play Jacksonville. Jacksonville is the type of team that doesn't look good right now, but man, if they wake up, you never know. So hopefully Buffalo can go have another solid week. But once again, I'm not going to overreact to how well they played Monday or Sunday. I wasn't going to overreact on Monday because every week is different. The Dolphins fans that were overreacting because they scored 70 points, they haven't slept well since Sunday afternoon because they realized that everything had to come back down. All the people that are on ESPN that were trashing Josh Allen after week 1 are now calling him the MVP. We got 13 weeks left, man. A lot of shit could happen. A lot of things could go up. A lot of things could go down. And you never know. We could end up with the Steelers winning the Super Bowl because the league is just so random this year. And I like it like that. And I hope you like it like that too. So hopefully you liked what I had to say today. Once again, I'm trying out the microphone and the soundboard through a different way to get it to my camera. I could hear my P's popping a little bit in the headphones, so I'll see how it sounds. And if it's not good like this, I'll just raw dog it for now on. But until then, you live and you learn. I'm going to do a lot of these things, whether you're here with me or not. Either way, we're good. And stay frosty, motherfuckers. I'll see you next time.